Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to deliver a talk in a FDP program on geotechnical innovation for sustainable and disaster resilient infrastructure. I'll be talking on geoinformatics with AI and ML for disaster risk reduction. So my talk is outlined like this. I will initially introduce you to the drivers of disaster. Then I'll take you to my study region, Western Ghats, and I highlight how to manage the ecosystem to ensure the water security. Then we'll discuss about the lakes of Bangalore, the pollution problem, etc. And then I will be talking about nature-based solution and wastewater treatment. At the end of my talk, I will highlight how the society has benefited because of the science done by us. Recently, I published a book on natural capital accounting and valuation ecosystem services in Karnataka state, India, which highlights the what is the worth of the ecosystem that we have in Karnataka in terms of forest ecosystem, agriculture, and the wetlands. Now, the agenda of my science is to ensure the clean air, water, and environment to our next generation. For that, we need to maintain the ecosystem integrity. So, for that, we require the responsible decision making with a decentralized governance for a prudent management of natural resources. Now, let us try to understand the changes in climate. Now, to understand climate changes, the data reveals that temperature is changing, rainfall pattern is changing, which highlight that the climate is changing. Now, the implication of changes in climate is the disasters have increased over the last 2.5 decades, and the sea level rise is happening. And other implication is it is affecting our the glacier. Now, if you look at the glacier earlier, it was this orange layer, and today this white layer is the glacier what we have. See, when the orange layer was there, the entire region, whatever the solar radiation used to fall, everything used to get the reflected, and there was no heating of the region. Now, because of the melting of the glacier, the energy absorption happens in the region between this orange and white layer, and then you will see that because of absorption of energy, there is a further erosion of the glacier. So that means this is aggravating the problem. So now the consequences of that flood is increasing. It's happening quite often in Bangalore. You would have noticed that in Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh in the form of cloudburst. Earlier, the flood used to happen, but today the frequency of the flood has increased. Now, let us try to understand how it affects our food, the productivity. For example, if you look at coral bleach, with 1.5 degrees Celsius, we lose 79%. With another 0.5 degrees Celsius, we lose 99%. Similarly, if you look at the plants and animals, we will lose about 6 insects, the 8 the plants, and the 4 vertebrates with 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. Another 0.5 degrees Celsius increase, it will shoot up to 18, 16, and the 6. These are all endemic species. For example, if you look at insects, I'm talking about pollinators like bees, etc. We will lose them. With the loss of pollinator, we will lose the productivity of the crop, etc. Now, if you look at the drought, the 350 million people are going to be affected with 1.5 degrees Celsius. It will shoot up to 410 million people. And sea level rise, which is about 49 centimeter with 1.5 degree, will become 51 centimeter with the another 0.5 degrees Celsius, and about 50 million people get affected. That is where the program today to enhance the capacity of the people or the capacity building program through the FTP seems relevant, and we need to understand these consequences more importantly so that we can manage the system. Now, because of the water stress, the people would be exposed to the water stress, and our crop productivity will come down by 60% by 2100. So now there will be escalation of the vector-borne diseases because of the increase in temperature, like malaria, dengue, etc. Then the virus and other the airborne viruses, etc., will enhance the transmission and increase the importance of vectors and pathogens like dengue, chikungunya, etc. So that means the temperature increase will lead to the vector-borne diseases, and we are going to pay the heavy price. Now, changes in rainfall pattern and duration. That means we'll have a high intensity rainfall. With the high intensity rainfall, we'll have flooding, landslide, etc., as it happened in Wayanad in Kerala, or in Bangalore. And frequent cloud burst in the form of led to the flooding, landslide, mudslide, which led to the large scale loss of life and property, which is still happening in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarkashi. So now to summarize what I said so far, with the increase in temperature, there is a glacier melt, the frequent flooding and drought in the region, and more importantly, the productivity of the crop will get declined. So that means we lose the food security and water availability. Cities would become vulnerable, and coastlines will become more vulnerable, and public health get threatened because of the vector-borne diseases. Now, let me take you to the Western Ghats. Western Ghats is the biodiversity rich region which is in the western part of the India. And it acts as a backbone for the India's economy. Now, because of the 100 plus rivers which are perennial, we have the water security in the Deccan Peninsular India, and because of the water security, we have the food security. Now, let us look at how many varieties of plants and animals are there on the Western Ghats. Before that, let us understand how many varieties of plants and animals are there on the earth. As per the scriptures, we have about 8 to 12 million species on the earth. And in the science, we have estimated 1.3 million species. Out of 1.3 million species, we know the biochemical composition of about 15%. That means even before we understand the significance of other 85%, because of the deforestation, we are losing these species and varieties. Now, let us try to understand what is the use of these species. When you have varieties of animals and plants, you have variety of food. Because of diverse food, you will have, when you take the diverse food, you will have medicine, and because of that, your body will get immunity. Now, let us understand which part of the globe has the highest number of varieties of plants and animals. When you move latitudinally, you will see at 8 to 14-degree latitude, you have the highest number of plants and animals. This corresponds to Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, part of Western Ghats. That means some of us have inherited such a rich diversity. It is our responsibility to conserve this fragile ecosystem and pass it on to our children so that they can enjoy the same benefit what we have enjoyed from the ecosystem. Now, to do that conservation, you need the data and you need to do the planning. To do the planning, you need the data. Now, you see that remote sensing data is available. Since 1970s, we launched the satellites way back in 70s, and every 21 or 30 days interval, you get the remote sensing data. That means the picture of the Earth. Now, suppose if you have a picture of yourself about 5 years back, and today we can analyze what changes have happened in morphological features in you, etc. Similarly, when you have a photograph of the region, you can find out what kind of changes have happened in the region. Now, this kind of we have learned the various platforms of the satellites like Landsat, the then you have Sentinel data, and then you have microwave data, etc. Now, when you start analyzing the data, depending on the land cover or a land use in the region, you have the numbers associated with that. If you can link that the number with the ground condition, you have done the classification of the data. Now, this is the kind of the data we have. There's a various spectral resolution data are available. Along with that, we use the topographic map, and also we go to the field with a global positioning system, collect the field data, which is used for as a training data to classify the remote sensing data. Now, to classify the remote sensing data, broadly there are two the approaches. One is the parametric, other one is non-parametric. The parametric is based on the maximum likelihood classification or the K means cluster, and non-parametrics are the random forest, support vector machine, neural network, etc. We have used the non-parametric classifiers in a Google Earth Engine to do this classification. Now, because of this temporal analysis, we have the data, past data of last 30 or 40 years. We could also predict what is the likely scenario in the region. So we have used the agent-based modeling, HPCA Markov model, to predict the land use in the region in 10 years or 20 years down the line. Now, let me take you to the Western Ghats. As I said earlier, Western Ghat is on the western side of India. It is about 1,600 kilometer, and the spatially it's about 1,60,000 square kilometer. We have used the remote sensing data, the big spatial data, which is available from 1970 onwards, and we have used the machine learning algorithm, random forest, and support vector machine to classify the remote sensing data. When you do the classified data of Western Ghats, it shows that green is declining. That means the forest is decreasing. Not only forest is decreasing, it is also getting fragmented. Fragmentation of the forest lead to the water scarcity, human wildlife conflict, and other problems. So that's where one need to manage the forest effectively. Now we also have predicted what is the likely scenario of forest in the Western Ghats by 2031. Our study shows by 2031 only 10% of the region will be under evergreen forest, and total forest cover in the Western Ghats would be about 18% by 2031. Now, the implication of deforestation or losing the forest or the degradation of the land in the Western Ghats is that if you look at the temperature, there will be a change. The Kerala will become warmer by 1.5 degrees Celsius. You have understood earlier what is the implication of increase in temperature. The vector-borne diseases will increase. That is what we are noticing in Kerala, see in the form of chikungunya, dengue, etc. And rainfall pattern is changing. The Kerala, which receives a higher rainfall, have started getting the low rainfall, and also the more importantly, the number rainfall in terms of the number of rainy days, which we call it as a intensity of rainfall. Now it has become you will get a large quantum of rain which are supposed to come spread across the 6 or 8 months in Kerala in a few weeks. With that kind of a rain, high intensity rainfall, since there is a deforestation, we have lost the ability to bind the soil. Earlier, the vegetation used to bind the soil. Now, without the vegetation cover, we have noticed that in undulating terrains, there is a large scale landslides and mudslides and flooding, leading to the large scale mortality. It was as it happened in Wayanad last year, leading to the washing away of 150 families in the Wayanad region. So these are the disasters we need to understand. Now, if you want to minimize the disaster, you need to identify ecologically fragile region and protect that. Okay. Now, we also have looked at what is the ecosystem. So, so now if you look at the worth of the ecosystem, broadly they are classified as the provisioning services, regulating services, and the cultural services. So, and among the provisioning services, we have looked at what are the tangible benefits the forest will give. Regulating services, we have looked at the carbon sequestration. Now, our study shows the carbon that is stored in the Western Ghats forest amounts to about 1.4 million gigagram. And if you look at the every year, it stores about 37,000 gigagram of carbon. That if you look at from economic angle, the monetary value of the worth of the carbon that is being stored in the forests of the Western Ghats, it amounts to about 100 billion rupees or $100 billion. That is the kind of the service provided by the Western Ghats forest. You might ask, what is the use of this kind of numbers? When I represent the country, I always argue that the carbon that is stored in our forest are the carbon emitted by the the industries in the West because of the industrialization at the time. As we have only one Earth, the carbon that is emitted by them was sequestered efficiently by the forest in Western Ghats and Himalaya. Now, it is the responsibility of the Westerners to pay for the service provided by our Western Ghats. So that is how much amount they have to pay is 100 billion rupees. That that's how you can also do the conservation. Now I will take you to the another example to highlight the linkage between the ecosystem, the structure or the landscape structure with the water availability. This gives the photograph in the year 1991. You will see a lot of water, whereas the same thing in the recent time on the same monsoon day, we do not have the water. Now, when you look at this carefully, the absence of the land cover, the forest, may be the reason for the scarcity of water. For that, let us try to understand. We all know that the landscape has a structure. It is covered with the forest, agriculture, etc. Depending on the kind of the vegetation cover, the ecosystem functions are there, which is in the terms of the hydrological cycle, nutrient cycle, biogeochemical cycle. Now, to understand the hydrological cycle, let me take you to the river basin. You know, this river originates at Ambutirtha, traverses 128 kilometers, joins the ocean, Arabian Sea. Way back in 1965, we constructed a dam. That led to a submersion of 179 villages. The villagers who were there were forcefully evicted and they were dumped in a drier belt. Those villagers who are practicing wet cultivation in this river basin, they couldn't survive in the dry belt. What they did is, after the completion of the dam, they came to this region. They just occupied the forest area, converted forest into agricultural land. Now, when you look at, this is the Linganmakki Dam, and this is the catchment area of the Linganmakki Dam, which is about 1990 square kilometer. Now, when you look at on one part of the Linganmakki catchment area, you have the good forest. Other this one, you see the forest area is converted into the agriculture, and now it is barren area. That gets evident here also. You see the thick forest in this region, while in this region you do not see the forest. Now, if you want to see whether this has affected the rainfall or the water availability, now today we have 125 years of rainfall data. You download the data from the portal, divide into two time period, 1901 to 1965 and 1965 to today. Now, why 1965? Because we constructed a dam, commissioned the dam in 1965. Now, the data analysis of rainfall shows that the entire region was receiving the rainfall of 3000 to 4500 during 1901 to 1964. But 1965 to today, when you look at this region, this portion receives the rainfall of 3000 to 4500, while this portion, which has witnessed the degradation of the landscape, has started getting 1700 to 1900 millimeter. This highlights that with the decline of the forest in the Western Ghats led to the decline of rainfall. Now we have divided this region into sub-basin, and we have looked at the extent of forest cover and the rainfall in each sub-basin. This shows the forest on the eastern side, forest cover is 30%, rainfall is 1700. While on the western side, forest cover is 68%, rainfall is the 4800. Or the forest cover 60%, rainfall is 4400. It is not just the amount of rainfall, but how much rainfall is available in your well or in your river or a stream that decides the activities. Now, to understand that, we did a hydrological investigation for 36 months. Why 36 months? We wanted to see year-to-year variability and also seasonal variability. That's why 36 months we monitored. We selected the 32 representative watershed. One watershed dominated by native species, the forest. Another one dominated by the monoculture plantation. The third one is dominated by agriculture. The fourth one is urban area. Like that, 32 location we selected. We put the sensors in the underlying layers, and we monitored how much rainwater get infiltrated when it rains. Our study shows in a catchment dominated by native species forest, because native species forests are diverse, the roots are diverse. Because roots are diverse, soil microorganisms are diverse and abundant. Because of that, soil microbial activity is higher. With a higher soil microbial activity, soil permeability is higher, or porosity is higher. Because of that, it allows the percolation of water. It fills this zone, which is called groundwater zone or saturated zone. Then it fills the Vado zone. Then this region receives the rainfall for monsoon rainfall of 4 months. After 4 months, the rainfall that is stored in this region will move to the river or stream for the next 4 months. That we call it as a pipe flow. The water flow from the subsurface region or the Vado zone into the river or stream for the 4 months. Then during the summer, the water that is stored in saturated zone moves toward the river or stream or lake for the next 4 months. That we call it as a base flow. Now you will have water throughout the year in your water body, provided if you have done the recharging of the groundwater and the Vado zone. Now because of that, 4 months you get a water from the water stored from the Vado zone, and 4 months because of the water stored in the saturated zone, you have 12 months water. Wherever monoculture plantation is there, only 6 to 8 months water is available. While with the urbanized area, because there is no infiltration happen, we have seen that only during monsoon we have the water, and during the post-monsoon period there is no water, leading to a severe scarcity of water. Now, to summarize what I said so far, You see, this is a pink region where the 12 months water is available. Green is 8 months, yellow is 6 months, and blue is 4 months. Now you overlay the vegetation cover. You will see wherever vegetation is there, water is available for 12 months. Wherever forest is fragmented, depending on scale of forest degradation, you have 8 to 6 months of water. Wherever forest is less than 30% thing, you will have only the water during the 4 months. Now we also quantified how much water get percolated when it rains when the region dominated by the forest. It shows that about 60 to 80% of rainfall get infiltrated during the monsoon in this region where forests are there. Where forests are removed in the name of development, we see that only 28 to 30% of the water get infiltrated. We also looked at the demand of the water in the region. On the left side of the slide, you will see that there are bars for agriculture, the livestock rearing, horticulture, etc. You will see the resource availability is much higher than the demand. Even though the demand is higher, there is sufficient water to meet the demand. While in the region on the right hand side of the catchment, you will see that in the name of development, we have removed the forest. There is a demand for water, but there is a scarcity of water. We published this in Current Science in 2020. And also, if you look at how this affects the livelihood of the people in the region where forests are there, the farmers grow three crops or a multiple crops or a cash crop because the the water availability throughout the year. While in the other region where 4 to 6 months water is available, farmers can grow only one crop. And if you look at the economic return or the revenue for the from the agriculture, the farmers in the forested area get the revenue of 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. In other region where they can grow only one crop, their earning is only 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Another interesting fact that has come out of our study is in this region where the pink color is there, if you take the yield of the crop, for example, paddy, it is as high as 14 to 18 quintal per acre. Whereas in other region, the blue and green region, it is only 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now, if you want to see the reason for that, wherever forests are there in the pink region, because of the pollinators presence, which are abundant and diverse, pollination become efficient. When pollination is efficient, the yield of the crop is higher. That's why they get the yield as 14 to 18 quintal per acre as against 6 to 8 quintal per acre in the other region. So now we also map the various organisms in the region. This gives the sloth bear, tiger, etc. They all are there in the region where water is available 12 months. In a region where there is no water, only two-legged animals are there. These are the two species of fish which we have described. They are named as the Schistura nagodiensis, Schistura charavatiensis. The significance of these two fish, they are small in size, but they have a high medicinal value. You know, that can be used for curing the diseases like bronchitis, asthma, etc. Now, understanding their medicinal properties, we thought that if we culture in our lab at Bangalore, we might get a better results or we can make a big money. But when we cultured those fish in our lab, they didn't have the same medicinal property what it used to have in the habitat. That means for the fish to have medicinal property, it has to grow in its habitat. That means in the river basin. For the river basin, the fish to survive, it should have the water in the stream for 12 months. For the water to be there in the stream for 12 months, surrounding catchment area should have a native species of forest. That means the fish tells us if there is a forest diversity and a good forest, then only it can have medicines. Now let us take another example about frogs. See, with the warming of the earth, with the changes in climate is happening. Now, with the changes in climate, there won't be a water on the earth. That is the biggest disaster that we are going to face. Now, with that kind of a disaster, with no water on the earth, I think Andhra Pradesh or Telangana is facing the severe water crisis like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, etc. Now, with that kind of a situation, no humans can survive on the earth. Now, if you want to see which are the other organism can survive, let me take an example of a frog. We know, you all know frogs are known as amphibian because they have two stages of the life cycle. The first stage is a juvenile stage or a tadpole stage, which require the water. Next stage is adult stage, which is on the land. Now, if there is no water, what will happen to the frog? No tadpole can survive. The frog population will not survive. Now, but in a one drier area in Western Ghats, we come across a species where younger frogs were there, and there were no water in the streams. When we observed and monitored the frog species, Philatus leucorhinus, we noticed that after fertilization of the egg, there is no tadpole stage. The younger organisms were moving around on the 14th or 15th day. When we saw this in the field, we collected those samples to the and brought it to the lab in Bangalore. When we monitored for 13 or 14 days, we saw the younger ones emerging out of the fertilized egg on 14th day or 15th day. That means the frogs have learned how to get adapted to a changes in climate. Now, whatever our intelligence, with artificial intelligence and machine learning, we might have improved our capability, but without water, none of us will survive. That is the biggest disaster we are going to the face if we continue to be the irresponsible as we are today. Okay. Now, to bring awareness among the public as well as the decision makers, we developed the decision support system in the Western Ghat region. We divided Western Ghat into the 5 minutes by 5 minutes grid, a 9 kilometer by 9 kilometer. For each grid, we compiled the information like forest cover, then the kind of plants and animal varieties are there, then water availability, the carbon sequestration, the environmental factors, the social parameters. We integrated biogeo, the ecological, environmental, social, and energy parameter for each grid. And then we prioritize the grid based on the relative the performance. The grids which had a higher weightage compared to the other one were categorized as a ecologically sensitive or ecologically vulnerable region. Now, if you look at this, we have divided Western Ghat into 5 minutes by 5 minutes grid. We have estimated a forest cover in each grid. The forest cover which are higher, we have given a higher weights. Similarly, the intact forest, wherever intact forests are there, we have given a higher value, and you can see the red color. Similarly, this gives the carbon sequestration. And if you see the kind of the animals that are present in the Western Ghat, as you move from Kerala to the Maharashtra and Gujarat, you will see higher proportion of the endemic species of animals are there in Kerala and in Karnataka. And if you look at the tree endemism, the endemism means those species occur only in that region. So you see higher proportion in Kerala, followed by that is Karnataka, then the other parts of the Western Ghats. So like this, we integrated various variables. We grouped the grids based on their consolidated score, and then divided that into four groups. And these four groups are named as ESR1, ESR2, ESR3, ESR4. So ESR means ecologically sensitive region or ecologically fragile region. Now you know which part of the Western Ghat have the the higher the sensitivity or the vulnerability. So we developed this decision support system, which is available online. You can choose the region, you can do this kind of analysis at the decentralized level. Suppose if you want to access this, you can choose the state, then you can choose the district and the taluk, and then the village. Find out what is the ecological sensitiveness or the fragility in the region. When you click on that, you will get the details related to that region in terms of the eco sensitivity, and also all the data which we have used to do this analysis, we have put it online so that people can download, the people can use this data and they can replicate the exercise. In science, reproducibility, replicability are the criteria, and we have done it. Okay. So now to summarize what I said so far, based on my experiment in Western Ghats, you have seen Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's head is covered with hair. When the head is covered with hair, he can retain the water. So that's how we get a Ganga. Similarly, understanding the importance of the forest cover and availability of water, our elders have protected patch of forest. They declared it as a sacred forest, or Devarakadu, or the Khans, etc. Now, unfortunately, these sacred forests are taking a back step with the people converting the forest into the temples or cement land, etc. Now, to highlight the study, as long as Mother Earth is covered with a green saree of native species, she will retain the water. We all have water throughout the year. When we convert the green saree of native species into the synthetic sarees of rubber plantation or eucalyptus, etc., then she retains the water for 4 to 6 months, and that means for 6 to 8 months we will not have water on the earth. Now, if we degrade the forest cover less than 30%, then we have the water only during the monsoon in the form of floods, etc. Now, if you want water, you need to protect the forest. You need to have the greenery of native species. Now, if you improve the greenery in the Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, you have they solve the problem of water scarcity or the disaster due to the water scarcity. So now let me give another example. I learned the concept of sustainability from this lady. This is a lady who is the 65 plus. She does the marine fishing. She collects the basket full of bivalves. I was curious and I went and asked her why she collects only one basket. Because by the time when they complete the one basket collection, it is about 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. There is a scope for a collection of more. Then she told me that when she sells that one basket full of bivalves are the marine organism with the shells, and that has a meat value also, which has a the commercial value also. She told me that when she sells that one basket full of bivalves, she earns 350 rupees, which is sufficient for her to run her family. She said that for the tomorrow, she said she will go again and collect it. That is what is sustainability. If you maintain renewability in the system, you have sustainability and you have a minimal disaster on the earth. Now, let us try to understand how the nature functions. You all have learned the food chain. When you look at the food chain, you have the producer producing the food using the during photosynthesis, convert the solar energy and the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere into the glucose, which is that food is eaten by the consumers, and you see the various levels of consumption. When you look at carefully, you see that there is a energy and material transfer happen from one level to the other. That is what we learn as a principles of thermodynamics. Then whatever is left in the system get converted into elemental form by bacteria and fungi. That's when you look at the nature, there is nothing called waste. Where do you see waste? You will see waste where waste people are there. People who have affinity to the plastic, who use too much of plastic bottles like bottled water, or get the food in polythene, or get the packed food from the through the Swiggy, Zomato, etc. They are the waste people, because in the form of their getting the food, they are creating the more waste in the system. So now let me bring you to the Bangalore. This gives the topography of Bangalore. If you look at Bangalore, it's an undulating terrain. Broadly, the spatial extent of Bangalore is about 740 square kilometer. We have three watersheds. That means there was three river course were passing through the Bangalore, and these are the watershed. Now, now if you want to understand how was Bangalore in 1800, in this region of 740 square kilometer, way back in the 1800, we had 1,452 water bodies and 80% green cover. Earlier river was passing. Our elders arrested the water by putting a bund at regular interval. That's how the moving water was arrested to meet the irrigation and drinking water requirement. That's how we had 1,452 water bodies, and the catchment had 82% green. Because of that, during summer, the May month, the temperature in Bangalore was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius. And today's Bangalore, the temperature is as high as 36 to 38 degrees Celsius. Now, when you look at the topography of Bangalore, this is the highest point. This is where my institute is. I am from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. We are number one in the country in the ranking, academic ranking, and also we are one among the top 100 in the globe. So now let us say why water bodies are required. When the lakes were there, people were getting the water at 80 to 100 feet. And when the lake was removed, it went down to 600 feet in 6 years. Now, today, people have gone down to this is about 22 years now, people have gone down to the 1,800 feet. There is no water in that part of the Bangalore. And some of the localities with intense urbanization, with the concretization, groundwater table is as high as 2,600 feet. And you might ask, if I rejuvenate the lake, will it solve the problem? Let me share an example of Saragi Lake. I was a member of the rejuvenation committee. Within a year of rejuvenation by desalting, the groundwater table improved by 300 feet. Last year, when entire Bangalore faced the dry zero situation with heat wave, with acute water scarcity, the Sariki Lake had enough water in the lake, and surrounding borewells had a water the less than 500 feet. And because of the high moisture content, temperature in the Sariki Lake was at least 2 to 3 degree lower than the city temperature. Because of that, the good diversity of animals and the sun we saw in the region. The message here is, if you want water, you rejuvenate lakes in your village and in your ward so that you will have water in the form of groundwater recharge, etc. Now, let us also understand why lakes are required. And lakes provides you the fish fodder, the water, and so to an extent of 10,500 rupees per day per hectare. When we pollute the lake, the worth of the lake come down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. When we pollute the lake, there is a profuse growth of macrophyte, which will bring down which will alter the food chain because there is no sunlight penetration. The algae and zooplankton and fish cannot survive. That is where worth of the lake come down from 10,500 rupees per day per hectare to 20 rupees per hectare per day. So now, if you want to understand who are the people that depend on the lake, fishermen, washerwomen, farmers, and people like us who is doing science, and our livelihood get affected when the lake is polluted. So that section of the society become vulnerable. Now let us try to understand what are the threats to the 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 thing. Greatest disaster I have come across is the unplanned urbanization. We have lost the flood sinks in the form of wetland, trees, etc. Loss of interconnectivity among wetland and loss of riparian vegetation. Now, if you want to see, there's a 5 decade, the remote sensing data is there. 1973, you see a greenery in Bangalore to an extent of 68%. Yeah, less than 8% is red, which are building a paved surface. Blue is a water body, yellow is an open space. In 92, with industrialization, the Pini and Kormangla, you see the changes are happening. In 99, 2000, with industries coming up, IT, BT sector in the outskirts, we saw changes are happening. 2006 intensification, 2009 further intensification. Now 2025, 87% of the Bangalore is concretized. That is the disaster. You know, now when you look at this one, there has been 1078% increase in concrete area. We have lost 88% vegetation, 79% of the water bodies are a water in the region. That has led to the oxygen deficiency in the region and the water scarcity. That's where I've been telling the government enough is enough. We need to decongest the Bangalore. Otherwise we are going to pay heavy price in the form of the dry zero. Sometime back you would have come across the report saying that Cape Town is a dry zero and Bangalore is in the third position. We are not very far from such situation because our irresponsible way of developmental activity is going to choke the city like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, etc. Now you can see the concretization that has happened in the region. You are all civil engineers. I am sure you understand the concretization, which was 8%, the buildings and the paved surfaces, road like road, etc. Today it's about 87%. Okay. Now let us try to understand how many trees are there in Bangalore. See, this is my campus, 400 acres. We did the mapping of the campus using GPS. We linked that with the remote sensing data. Similar exercise, we did it in couple of wards. With that training data of couple of wards, using remote sensing data for entire Bangalore, we estimated that the number of trees in Bangalore as 14 lakh 78,000 trees and population is about 95 lakhs. That means for every 7% there is one tree. Then you might ask, why do we require trees? We all know that trees gives the oxygen, and when we breathe, we give out a carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. That means the younger people 980 grams and the senior people like me will be about 540 grams per person per day. And 1 hectare of tree takes away carbon dioxide to an extent of 8 to 9 tons per year. By that ratio, we should have had for every there should have been 7 to 8 trees. But what we have in Bangalore is 7%, the one tree. That is where we have acute scarcity of oxygen in the city. There are instances people using oxygen cylinder, especially those because Bangalore is an asthma city. with asthma problem and other health issues, people have to use the oxygen cylinders. What I am talking today is nothing new. It has been talked about in our scripture. For example, if you look at Bible talks about nature conservation at least 320 times to minimize the disaster. If you look at the Quran, it talks of imminent war if you want to, if you pollute the water bodies or the water. That's why to bring awareness. You see that in the dargahs like Kadapa or in Ajmer, there is a well. People have to pull out the water from the well and then wash their feet and fingers with the clean water. Then only they can visit the dargah. The people, the Quran thought that if you practice at dargah, you will also practice at home or in community. Similarly, in the scripture that I follow, there is a link between the water, children, and the trees. If you have a well at home, you are wealthy. The 10 wells are equal to one lake, 10 lakes are equal to one sarovar, 10 sarovar is equal to one child, and 10 children are equal to one tree. That means benefit of having 10 children, you can also have by planting and nurturing a tree or a sapling. Now I'll put it other way. Those who cut the tree, they are murdering their own children. 10 children. That is the powerful message. That is how I communicate to the section through the news reports, etc. So now, if you look at the temporal, the number of lakes in Bangalore, which is 730 in 1973, as per the topographic map, today we have only 216 water bodies. 98% are sewage fed, and 92% of lakes are encroached. These are the greatest threats the lakes are facing. Okay, there has been 79% decline in the wetland. These are the red ones, are the one we have lost over a period of last 5 decades. We thought that we need to have a decision support system so that our decision makers and urban planners can plan the city properly. We developed the Bangalore Urban Information System or BUIS. This is that is available at this portal. You can see how the urbanization happening, what kind of infrastructure there, what kind of lakes are there, what kind of trees are there in Bangalore, and what is the water scarcity in Bangalore, how to solve that. So that with this information, as an urban planner, you should be able to manage the city sustainably. Okay. We also did the analysis of the emission or the carbon from the various sectors. In 10 cities in the country, our study shows the whichever city the public transport is free, the pollution from the transportation sector is high. For example, Hyderabad, it is 54% from the transportation sector, and Bangalore, it is about 46%. Now, if you want to minimize the greenhouse gas footprint, or the emission from the transportation sector, you need to improve the public transport. The public transport should be economical and also the cost effective and secure for women and children. Then it become a popular proportion. Now let us look at another sector which is also contributing to higher greenhouse gas emission. Now when you look at this architecture is meant for the European climate or a temperate climate where to get the thermal comfort inside the building, you need to conserve the heat because the surrounding the region is cold. So, but unfortunately, our architects have copied this architecture, which is suitable for temperate climate, and they have pasted in a tropical climate like Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, etc. Now, to understand the implication of this, the kind of architecture in Bangalore, we did the sampling of 3,200 households, and our study shows in a normal building, if the electricity consumption is 700 to 1,200 units per person per year, in this kind of glass facade building, it is as high as 14,000 to 17,000 units per person per year. That means there is a 10 times higher electricity consumption because of the copy paste culture. With higher electricity consumption, we have higher the greenhouse gas footprint. That means unplanned urbanization has led to the loss of ecosystem, which has enhanced the carbon in the atmosphere. That's how the warming of the earth is happening. With the warming of the earth, the changes in climate is happening. With the changes in climate, we are having the disaster. That's what we need to understand. If you want to minimize the disaster, you need to be responsible. That is where your planning has to be appropriate. Now, let us try to understand how the temperature in the region has changed over a period of time. In 90s, the city temperature was 21 degrees. In 2000, it became 24 degrees, and in 2010, it became 28 degrees, and today it's about 36 to 38 degrees. That's how there is a gradual increase in the temperature. Now, if you want to understand the heat island phenomena, when we move from the center of the city in eight direction, you notice that there are wherever water bodies or green parks are there, temperature is 2 degree lower. Even my campus, the temperature 2 degree lower because my campus, Indian Institute of Science campus, has 54% green cover. Okay. Now, removal of the lakes or wetland has led to the frequent floods in the city, and which is also, and you see some part of the year we have this acute water scarcity drought situation also. The reason for flooding is the loss of interconnectivity. The lake which was, our lakes are interconnected. People have converted lake into residential layout or enclosed the lake for other purposes. That is where the fragmentation has happened, which has, and wherever the fragmentation has happened, those are the location you see the flooding happening at the regular interval. Now, let us try to understand how the wetlands are threatened. We use wetland or the lake for dumping the solid waste. People encroach the lake and construct the lake view apartment, and people from Hyderabad will invest in this kind of apartment thinking that they can view the lake. But unfortunately, these lakes receive the sewage, untreated sewage. As high as 600 million liters of sewage every day. This is Belandur Lake. And those who are away send it through the tankers. Now, consequence of that, you see that in the lake which was clean, which was clear water, has a thick cover of macrophyte, invasive species of macrophyte. When invasive species of macrophyte cover the lake, the lake stop functioning. Earlier when the lake is clean, if you measure the dissolved oxygen at inlet and outlet, you will see dissolved oxygen at inlet is 0, while at outlet it is as high as 10 to 12. That means there is a treatment of water happens as water moves from inlet to outlet because of the microalgae and bacteria. But with the coverage of the macrophyte, invasive species of macrophyte, you will see the dissolved oxygen is as low as 3, and biochemical oxygen demand is as high as 120 or 140. That means the lake is not working. Now, if you look at the biological organism, because of the profuse growth of macrophyte, the sunlight penetration doesn't happen. Since there is no sunlight, algae does not grow. Since algae do not grow, the fish does not grow. So that's how the productivity of the lake come down. You would have seen the reports of frothing of lake in Bangalore and fire in the lake. Frothing happened because of the untreated sewage getting into the lake. Untreated sewage consists of N and P. P is the phosphorus. We all use detergent which contains phosphorus. Because of that, frothing of the lake happened. The fire happened because of the hydrocarbon getting into the lake, which shows the industrial effluent getting into the water body. So now the Lokayukta of Karnataka asked me to prepare a report. We have prepared the report and given the thing for the remediation of this pollution. Now that report has the local youth have taken it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in turn has penalized the government of Karnataka 500 crore. Now that money is kept in escrow account, and the lakes, the Belandur and Vartur lake, these two major lakes in Bangalore are being rejuvenated. So now the disasters you can see when the lakes are polluted, to understand the disaster in the form of health aspect, we collected the sample of water from the lake and the fish, and people use this water from the lake to grow the vegetables in the downstream. People grow the green leaves, radish, etc. When we analyze the fish, water, as well as this vegetable, all of them had heavy metal. Because of heavy metal in our food, the health is getting affected in the form of cancer and kidney failure. The Bangalore is number one as far as cancer is concerned. And kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. Every ward has a dialysis unit. When the minister or politician inaugurates the dialysis unit in their ward, they are highlighting that their ward has become unhealthy. The more and more children are getting affected because of the heavy metal getting into our food. When I visit the school as a part of the environmental education program, I've come across this boy in a Ramgundanli school having lost both the kidney. I thought that may be a problem of the government school. Then I moved to the another school, which is a private school, KK English High School. The principal took me to the various classes. In LKG, one girl child had lost a kidney. In the same school, 8th standard, the two girls, One had lost both the kidney, other one had lost one kidney. After 4 months, when I visited school again, I wanted to do something for the child who lost both the kidney. Then principal told me that kid is no more. Then also he told me that the security guard who is from Nepal, who is in the age group of 25 to 35, is also died because of kidney failure. As you all know, youth are asset of the nation. We are losing the youth because of this unhealthy practice of polluting our air and water in the environment. That is another major disaster. Irresponsibly polluting the surrounding environment by disposing the industrial effluent containing heavy metal into the water body and land is the greatest disaster. And this is mainly because the regulatory agencies like pollution control board not doing the work. You know, I would say the corruption is the worst form of the pollution I have come across, and it is the worst form of the disaster we have come across. As a part of the FDP program, if you all learn how to minimize the corruption in the system, I think you have done a great job of saving my country. Okay. Now, this is how it get polluted. Now, we also took up the rejuvenation of the lake as per the Supreme Court. I was a member of the rejuvenation committee. We did the sampling of the lake to understand what is the water quality and what is the sediment quality. And also we did bathymetric analysis to see how much silt is accumulated. We did a bathymetry investigation. These are all our location. You can see the dots in the water body. This left side is Vartu, right side is Belando. This gives the current depth. Using sonometer, we found out what is the current depth. And this is a historical depth. The difference of these two will give you the amount of silt accumulated in the silt. Since the Vartur is a downstream of Belandur, didn't have any contaminant, while the Belandur, the silt has a contaminant, I have suggested the government to manage this silt as per the hazardous management rule. While the Vartur lake silt, we have given to the 400 acres farmers. And the when I visited that region once a month, in the fourth month when I visited the farmers field, when I visited, the farmer showed me demonstrated the bumper crop. Each farmer told me because of my decision to give the silt to the farmer has benefited them. Their revenue went up by 1,50,000 rupees per acre per season. They grow this vegetable, green leaves, pudina, spinach, radish, etc., brinjal, etc., thrice a year. That means the worth of the silt is 1,50,000 into 3, 4,50,000 rupees per acre is the into 400 acre, you know that what is the worth of this one. And also the amount of silt that is accumulated in the both Belandur and Vartur, 11 million cubic meter. If you convert that into brick, the worth of the brick is 1,500 crore. If you look at the nutrient content of the silt, you can if you look at N, nitrogen, you can fertilize soil in Punjab. If you look at P, you can fertilize soils in the Uttar Pradesh. If you look at the potash content in the silt of Belandur and Vartu, you can fertilize soil in Andhra Pradesh. If you look at the economic value of the nutrient that is there in the silt, it amounts to about 15,000 crores. That's how we have to, as a scientist, as a researcher, as an academician, we have to do this kind of analysis to highlight how to use this waste into the valuable products. Now, we also developed Bangalore Lake Information System. When you access this Bangalore Lake Information System, you can get the information about all the lakes in Bangalore. We have a distinction of analyzing all the lakes in Bangalore. Three of my students who have done their doctoral work have monitored all the lakes for about 4 or 5 years. Now, the data what they have collected, I have made it available to the public. You will get the water quality detail. You will get the alga, biological organism in the form of algae, zooplankton, and fish. And also, that anthropogenic factor like encroachment that is on the lake. So you can visualize this. This portal is available to the public. You can visit whenever you get a time. Okay. Now I am at the concluding part of my talk, the last part, how my science has benefited society. We did a wastewater treatment thing, the cost effective. That's a success model. We have demonstrated how rainwater harvesting will solve the water problem in the region. We have created a water bodies. We also created a mini forest to show the linkage between the vegetation and groundwater. And more importantly, whatever we have learned, we have communicated to the wider section of society through the environmental education program. I have about 45 to 60 schools which are networked with my lab. So we regularly conduct the orientation program for the children. My thinking is that when youth have the adequate the environmental knowledge, they become sensible. When they become sensible, they will be responsible. When they become responsible, they take an optimal decision. That's what how I can have sustainable development in the region. Now, if you look at this wastewater treatment, the design, way back in 2005, I had monitored the Jakkur Lake. Surrounding Jakkur Lake, there are 25 wells were there. When we analyzed the water sample, all of them had nitrate, the well water as well as the lake water. As we all know, the nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. So then what I did is I pushed the government of Karnataka to rejuvenate the lake. When the government took up the rejuvenation, I was a member of the committee. The we implemented a nature-based solution. We put the constructed wetland and algal pond, which is a nature-based solution, along with secondary treatment plant. As you all know, the wastewater treatment has the three levels. First, the level is the remove the large particles. Secondary treatment will remove the chemical ion. Tertiary treatment is required to remove the nutrient. Nitrate is a nutrient problem. To remove the nutrient, I had incorporated the nature-based solution of constructed wetland algal pond. Last 12 years, my students have monitored this. There is 85 to 90% removal of nutrient happen. The report which we have published is available online. You can go through this our website to get the details. Okay. Then with this gives a glimpse of the lake I have created in the campus. Not only my students are happy with the for monitoring the lake, the water quality, biofuel, etc. Even I have the otter which is also happy. Otter, we were surprised the otter how it is surviving. When we did the biodiversity study, you can see that lake from 2005 where I was taking measurement 2008 onwards how it looks. You can see that, and then this gives algae, zooplankton, fish, and the bird. The message here is if you facilitate the ecosystem, in the form of lake creation, etc., the nature knows how to create the food chain so that everyone gets the food. Similarly, wherever the drier district, when people have invited me to solve the water problem, I have solved the problem. For example, in Mudubitre, 2014 and 15, there was a severe water crisis. 2016, the saint invited me when he told me that he has a 12 acres of land. We gave a proposal to create the water bodies. I told him that if he creates a water body and the June there will be rain so that he can fill the water with the rainwater. As my prediction, the June there was a rain and he shared this photograph with the rainwater filling the lake. The success is because of the youth. Even the saint is youth, young, and also a large number of college students, and even the CEO of that institution is also quite young. Then I convinced that institution CEO to create a water body in his campus and take up the native species planting. After a year when I visited his institution, you can see the greenery with abundant water and smile on our face. This gives the thing. When you do the nature, the beneficial thing, you are also benefited. For example, the CEO whom I had met, he was a bachelor. He was trying to get married, but it was quite difficult for him. But the moment he did the lake creation and native species planting, within a 6 months he gets a partner, a wonderful partner who take care of the giant family. That means if you want prosperity at home, if you want happiness at your home, you need to do this kind of nature this one which benefits the society and community, in the form of augmenting the water, etc. If you do that, it will help. And the this saint, I had given a suggestion to take up the silting of the lake in Mudubitre. There are 32 lakes in Mudubitre. Out of that, two lakes desilting he did it. Remaining 30 lakes were done by the local people as a part of Shramadhan. Last year, when entire Karnataka faced a severe water crisis with a green drought, Mudabidre, this taluk didn't face a water crisis because of the rejuvenation of the lake, desilting of the lake, and recharging the groundwater. They didn't face the water crisis. That means if you want water, whether it is Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh or any part of India or any part of the globe, you rejuvenate the lake, you retain the rainwater. That is the sustainable solution. Please communicate this to your chief minister, very enterprising chief minister you have. This one you should be able to see that the prosperity in your state by through the rejuvenation of lakes and planting of native species in the region. So now, see, I will share another this one. For example, how to solve the Bangalore water problem. Bangalore receives the rain of 700 to 850 millimeter. If I harvest the rainwater, I have 15 TMC of water, where Bangalore requires 18 TMC of water. Now, to harvest the rainwater, there are two options. The first option is to, at individual level, route of harvesting. Next option is to rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater so that groundwater recharge happens as it happened in Saraki Lake. Then the next option is, since Bangalore uses 18 TMC of water, if you treat wastewater of 18 TMC, you have 16 TMC of treated water similar to the Chekkur model. That means 15 TMC because of lake rejuvenation, 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment. You have 31 TMC in a place where 15 TMC of water is required. But this is a sustainable solution, long-term sustainable solution, and abundant solution. But for this to happen, I have 5R formula. First R is a responsible citizen. People with environmental knowledge, they become sensible and they'll be responsible. When they are responsible, they rejuvenate the lake so that I can retain the rainwater. Similarly, they will allow the reuse and recycle of the wastewater so that I will have water, adequate water for everyone, so that I have minimized the disaster of acute water scarcity in the region. Okay. Now, when you come to the IISC campus, you will see this climber in front of my department. I was fascinated by the architecture of this climber, which was in Western Ghat. I felt that I should have it in my campus. When I was young, I brought the pod with the 14 seeds. Out of 14 seeds, 7 seeds I have kept in my lab. Other 7 I planted in 7 locations. Out of 7 locations, only one place it has survived, that is next to my building. That means even the plants know who will take care. Now, in front of this building, I created a mini forest in a 2 hectares area. 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted way back in 90s when I was a student. Today, you come and see the region has abundant diversity of animals like slender lories, snakes, birds, etc. Temperature in the region is 2 degrees lower compared to the campus temperature, and groundwater, which was 150 feet earlier when the region was infested with Parthenium. Then after creating mini forest, now after 30 years, the groundwater is at 10 feet. Now, this gives an idea that if you want to solve the water problem in your village, in your ward, best thing is to have a minimum 2 hectare forest of native species and rejuvenate the lake in your region. Then you will have a plenty of water at 10 feet as it happened in IISc campus. Now, other program what we do it is the Know Your Ecosystem. This is a capacity building program. We have conducted about 555 program since 1998. We have gone to the rural school throughout the country, and we also offer a course on environmental management. That is, I have conducted 22 sessions. Now the session has started, current year session, 23rd session has started in September and it will end in December. Our agenda is to enhance the knowledge of environment at all level among the school children and about the working professionals, faculty from institution, etc. That's how we are doing the capacity building. When we do the capacity building with adequate knowledge of the environment in the people, we have sustainability in the system. We also organize symposium, popularly known as Lake Symposium, once in 2 years. I have conducted 14 events as on date from 98 to today. Once in 2 years, I have conducted 14 events. There are 1,000 to 1,200 people participate. The uniqueness of this event is the participation by the school and college students. 30% of the school and college students in the audience. They do a simple experiment like carbon sequestration, lake water monitoring. We conduct a orientation program. Children go to field, collect the sample, do the data analysis. Children in rural areas, they do the neighborhood mapping. There are some students from Hyderabad also have attended our conference some time back. Then they will do the presentation symposium. That's how the capacity building happens. If you have any doubt, you can write to me at my email ID, emram.cs@isc.ac.in. These are the portal where my publications are available. When you look at our portal, you will see all the decision support systems are available, and our conference, all the 14 conference postings are available. Participants' presentations are available. I also bring out Sayadri E-News. The 94th issue is available online. All the 94 are available, and my research group, the publications are available. Recently, we published article in Nature in July, and in May, about Goa. In July, in Bangalore, the thermal comfort or a heat island. When you look at our website, you will see our publication that is archived here. In YouTube, you will get the my talks also. So my agenda of science is to sow the seeds of knowledge in this young brain. When they become sensible and responsible, they will become asset to the nation. That's what we are doing. If you have more queries, you can write to me at this email ID. And when this ends, and also I communicate to the wider section through the podcast, etc. This is one of the podcasts which has become quite popular. You can also access this. So, and then see, when youngsters do a good science, there is a smile on everybody's face. Thank you very much for listening to me. And if there are any queries, please do not hesitate to write to me at my email ID emram@ces.iisc.ac.in. Thank you very much. All the best.